What's up, guys? Welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate. You are you, and it only took an eclipse, but we finally got the MaXXXine trailer. Now, this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year because I have loved this trilogy so far from Ty West and Mia Goth. I really loved X. It was my favorite movie the year it came out, and I really enjoyed Pearl for what it was. And they were two very different films. And so we knew MaXXXine was going to be a third film that was very much its own thing as well as we close things out. And you know, because it's the end of a trilogy, we have to go bigger and badder. We got to really put a stamp on things. So I was really interested to see how they were going to do that. Now, this trailer reaction will not be the same old, where I sit and watch a clip and I occasionally go, huh, cool. That's a good shot. That's interesting. And you're like, oh, why am I watching a clip of a guy watching a clip? No, let's just go ahead and get to the good part. Let's get down to business. These are the top 5 takeaways from the MaXXXine trailer for me. Number 1, there's a lot of things I saw in this trailer that I expected to see just because the trailer has to tell us what our time frame is, where our main character is at right now, roughly what is the story going to be about. But I never expected the trailer to name drop the Night Stalker.
I don't like working out here with that freaking Night Stalker guy in the loose.
Who was Richard Ramirez, a real-life serial killer who cast the state of California into a state of terror and hysteria.
The Night Stalker.
Night Stalker.
Night Stalker.
He's terrorizing Los Angeles.
His MO was to break and enter, to sexually assault his victims, and then to murder them in grisly fashion. He would leave their apartments or homes in disarray. He would scar the bodies with satanic symbols or cast these up on the wall in blood. And it just had the whole entire state freaked out, much like you see in the trailer where you have all these different news channels covering the story. So I never imagined a world in which MaXXXine would take from real life that hardcore, to where MaXXXine could actually be a historical fiction. I mean, Ty West is doing a Quentin Tarantino? Are you kidding me? This feels so much like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where we did like a cathartic justice, where we're like, wouldn't it have been cool if Sharon Tate had lived, if Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt were there to save the day? We could be doing that here, to where the Night Stalker gets got by MaXXXine. I would love to see their past and their sex. I think that could get really interesting. I never thought that this could be happening. It still may not be happening, but it's really cool that it's even on the table and that we can talk about it right now. Number 2, the reason I have my doubts it's going to actually be the Richard Ramirez is I feel like in order to get people chatting and to get people making thumbnails with little red circles, it'll be like, you know, villain explained, Night Stalker revealed, and they tell you about Richard Ramirez. Instead of doing that, they didn't really show his face. Like, we knew with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that it was going to be old Charlie Manson in there in some capacity. And we didn't get that. We got an all-black figure walking around in shadows. We always saw him from the back or just saw his hand in a glove wielding a knife. But what I do like about that is that it's so Giallo. Now, if you don't know what the term Giallo means, you know how in like the late 70s and 80s slashers were the craze? There was about 36 different Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger movies. Well, Giallo is pretty much like that craze, but what was going on in Italy? Except we had visionary directors like Dario Argento pumping out Giallo films, and these movies were classified by like really over-the-top extreme stylizations, just really insane pounding scores, really brazen camera work, really hammy acting, plots that would twist and turn every which way, and viscera flying everywhere in the most hysterical extreme fashion. Again, very Tarantino-esque. Think Kill Bill, where appendages get lopped off and there's just blood fountains a spewing. That is Giallo for you. So I think that's a pretty great choice for Ty West to do for the style of this film. X, that was a very nitty-gritty, grindhouse, like 70s Texas Chainsaw Massacre exploitation-like film.
One goddamn fucked up horror picture.
And then Pearl was very much like classic Hollywood. It was Wizard of Oz meets Psycho. So there's always a question of what would he tackle with this one? What would the style be? What would the lens be through? What would it look like? And it looks like he has opted for Giallo, and I'm here for it. Look for that lush, beautiful lighting. Look at that red. Look at our cloaked figure and his black leather glove, and then the hyper zoom on the great big overly sized knife. That is just so Giallo, and it's such a nice choice. If you want to go ahead and get yourself kind of used to these sorts of things, this sort of flair, this Giallo type of taste, go ahead and check out some Dario Argento, because you may not like it, you may straight up love it, but no matter what, you'll walk away going, man, there are some moments in that movie that I ain't quite seen something like that before. Number 3, I love that we are set in Hollywood and we are exploring Hollywood and its seedy past and the seedy nature and the way you have to do despicable things sometimes to make a name in that town. But also, that we actually are seeing like actual movie sets. I talked about how Pearl was very much Wizard of Oz meets Psycho. Here we actually have Psycho. We have the Bates Motel. We have the Bates home on the hill. And just like Norman Bates looked up and saw what he thought was his living mother in the window, we see MaXXXine gazing up and seeing Pearl, this woman that she just offed in the previous movie, X. That's really cool. I hope she goes in that house. I hope that we get to see her in the Bates home, that maybe we even see her in the hotel. Maybe we see this Giallo looking killer come after her in the shower. There's just so much potential for so many cool homages and really tense moments, really great chase scenes, but we don't even have to limit it to Psycho because we are on this studio lot. So think about the 80s. How many huge movies came out in the 80s? About 1,000? I mean, how many movies today, like we just look at any weekend's set of films, how many are legacy sequels or reboots or remakes of treasured 80s movies? We can do so many things. We can just continue to Quentin Tarantino this thing. We could have MaXXXine meeting current day actors that we know and love, portraying actors of that time that we know and love. Straight up Tarantino that bitch. And I think that that would be a lot of fun. So I really want to see what they do here with this studio lot. Number 4, this trailer didn't tip away too much. It didn't do that annoying trailer thing where it's like, this is your first act, this is your second act, this is your third act, this is all the reveals. No, but it was like, this is kind of the story. It's 1985. Our girl has made it big, but it ain't that easy. Her story, her history, her roots, they are coming back to haunt her. And we're not just talking about what went down on the farm back in X. We are talking about her relationship to that overzealous, religious televangelist in X that we find out was her father. And it looks like he may have hired a PI, or one of the family members of one of the victims of the X movie has hired a PI, and now he is hot on the trail of MaXXXine. And he's played by Kevin Bacon, doing some really cool character work, it looks like here, doing a really cool accent.
He is a very powerful man.
So I can't wait to see what's going to happen here. And it starts to envelop everyone in this town, it seems, because the Night Stalker stuff is going on. And we have all these young actresses trying to make a name. It could get very cutthroat, quite literally, pun intended with the cutthroat thing. Will somebody turn on each other? It looks like a bunch of young girls who have each other's back, but as hysteria starts to ramp up and people start to get big breaks or having the chance for a big break, and you start to hear murmurs about this MaXXXine girl, will one of them come forth and say, hey, I know the dirt on you, I'm turning you in? Will people be suspicious of her? Because MaXXXine is not your normal, like, super pure, clean protag. No, she's a very frenzied, volatile character. She can sometimes be sweet, sometimes be nice, be a little bit playful, but she can also be very cold-blooded, and you don't want to cross her. So that could get very interesting. That could go a lot of different places. And it's taken on a very like old Hollywood film noir type of thing, because we have a real potential for all sorts of twists and reveals and murder mystery. And it's going to look like a Giallo film, and it's going to all happen with the score of excess in the 80s, and I'm loving it. And number 5, my last takeaway is the exploration of American excess in the 80s. Now, this is the end of a trilogy. This is the 3rd installment of a trilogy, so it's got to be big. It's got to be huge in terms of scale. You got to go all out, and it looks like we are poised to do that with more locations, more set pieces, more characters, more faces that you recognize, and it looks like things will come to a fiery, fatal conclusion. And if you think about 80s movies that explored excess, you think about like Wall Street or even Scarface, think about how movies like those turn out for our pro tags, and think about what that might mean for MaXXXine. And when you get shots like the helicopter looking down on MaXXXine, it does kind of feel like this is gonna be one of those movies where she has the rise, she has her day in the sun, and she's really living it up and going all out, really extravagance all around her, but it must come to an end. And just like Scarface, that ending is usually a rough one for the main character. I mean, think about how many movies are about this type of thing. How many Scorsese joints are like that? Where you have a character who's one sometimes do despicable, nefarious things, and yet you still kind of like them. They have enough charisma. They can put yourself in their shoes and vicariously live through them just a bit, even though part of you kind of is disgusted by them. And then they get their comeuppance in the end in really horrific fashion sometimes. Sometimes it's very bloody, and I wonder if that's what's in store for MaXXXine, or will she ride off into the sunset? Will she continue to be a household name? Will she be a star? These are the questions that the trailer begs, and these are the things that have me going, man, I can't wait for this movie. So those are my 5 biggest takeaways. Those are the things that I saw in the trailer. I was like, whoa, we're doing that. We got the Night Stalker in here. We got Giallo. We got movie sets. We got the Psycho stuff. We got the Bates Motel. We have Kevin Bacon doing some really cool character acting. We got a PI hot on her trail. And we have American excess, the era of Wall Street and cocaine, and 80s movies galore. How many movies went gangbusters at the box office and at the Cineplex, and now to this day, we're doing legacy sequels. So it just makes sense that MaXXXine would dip its toe into all these different things, and I can't wait to see what Mia Goth and Ty West do. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe so you can see more of the NateMareFlix content in the future. And one more thing. Would you please have yourself a great day? I'm Nate for NateMareFlix saying that's a wrap.
Hello?